ورحمة الله وبركاته. مجلس الأعمال الأمريكي من أجل التفاهم الدولي في زيارة لمصر بيجمع مجموعة من الشركات الأمريكية أو الأمريكية الأصل العاملة في مصر وفي الشرق الأوسط أو من غير العاملة حتى أيضا. الرئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي لما كان في نيويورك التقى بأعضاء هذا المجلس وعرض عليهم زيارة مصر وعرض عليهم أن تتواجد الشركات الأمريكية بشكل أكبر في مصر خلال الفترة القادمة، وبالتالي كان هذا اللقاء الذي تم اليوم واحنا بنجري هذا التسجيل بين مجموعة من الشركات الأمريكية ومجموعة من المسؤولين المصريين. هذا المجلس تأسس عام 55 من خلال الرئيس ايزنهاور الذي أمر به عشان يبقى فيه نوع من أنواع التفاهم الدولي. عادة لما بنتكلم عن التفاهم بنفتكر ان احنا بنتكلم عن منظمات تعمل في مجالات زي مجالات حقوق الإنسان أو غيرها، ولكن التفاهم من خلال الأعمال الحقيقة بيكون عادة مثمر أكثر مما يعتقد الكثيرون، لأنه في النهاية خالص المصلحة من ناحية تؤدي إلى نوع من أنواع الفهم والتفاهم وتبادل الثقافات في الأعمال أسهل كثيرا من غيره من المجالات. تعالوا نتعرف على ما الذي دار خلال اجتماعات اليوم، ما هي المشكلات التي تواجه الشركات الأمريكية حينما تدخل في السوق المصرية، كيف نستطيع أن نجتذب المزيد من هذه الشركات لكي تتواجد في مصر في خلال الفترة التي تحتاج فيها مصر إلى دعم اقتصادها بشكل كبير. اسمحوا لي أرحب بضيوفي السيد جيفري دونالد نائب رئيس المجلس الأعلى للتفاهم الدولي. You're most welcome, sir. وارحب بالسيد أشرف الخولي رئيس المجموعة المصرية لأبحاث الدواء. أهلا بحضرتك. وارحب بالسيد كيرت فيرغسون رئيس شركة كوكا كولا للشرق الأوسط وشمال أفريقيا. most welcome.
Thank you, Ossama.
والسيد أسامة سليمان المدير التجاري لشركة كارجيل وهي العاملة في مجال الحبوب والزيوت وذلك لمنطقة الشرق الأوسط وأفريقيا. أهلا بحضرتك. Mr. Donald, let me first start by trying to get a sum up of what happened during these days of meeting and what are the future plans.
We came in aware already of the several steps that have been taken to improve economic performance, the investments in infrastructure, particularly transportation and energy, some of the steps to make the country more competitive, attract investment, the development of the canal, for instance, expansion of the canal. But what today allowed us to do is to hear more about the next steps, the government plans, and also to share some ideas from companies on ways that they see that further improvements could be made to attract further investment from companies that have already made a big investment and a big commitment on a long-term basis to Egypt.
What would the council do that is different from the American Chamber or the Egyptian American Chamber and the similar missions that are conducted here?
Sure. I think we would see other organizations like that as partners. We all kind of share a similar goal and objective of making things better. And I think what would be different about BCIU is more just that we're a global operator, so we can compare examples from other markets that we're seeing, enhancements in competitiveness in other places and how those might be applied here. The same companies so are involved in both organizations.
Mr. Kurtz, I mean, you've seen many of these missions along the years that you've been here in Egypt. Do you feel that this is more effective? Do you feel it's on the same level? It's just a continuous and long-term dialogue that has been happening along the years, and this is just part of it? Or are we going to see something that there will be some kind of a leap here?
I think the whole region, quite frankly, needs a leap. You know, if you look at, we're coming out of a lot of instability. The government is focused here on stability. And I think that the bold right now will make an investment. The Coca-Cola company, when the Berlin Wall fell, we were there the next day. We said, hey, what a great opportunity. People are hungry, people want to get ahead. And it's the same reason why we've been in Egypt you know, since the 1940s, during the middle of the war. We came to Egypt, so we've been here over 70 years. So my company's making a big investment here, and I got to congratulate you on your choice of color scheme. Red and white, I feel right at home being with Coca-Cola. But I mean, we sat there and we said, what do we have to do for Egypt? And we looked in the next 3 years of putting $500 million into the Egypt market because you have 90 million consumers. And it's a great hub, and we have our regional hub here for our Middle East and North Africa business, but also for our concentrate business. The secret ingredient for Coca-Cola for almost 50 countries is produced right here in Egypt.
Right, that's for Coca-Cola, but how do you see the overall mission?
I think pretty much how Coca-Cola goes. A lot of other companies try to look at those things also and say, you know, if Coca-Cola's investing, if the P&Gs are investing, if the Pepsis are investing, then it's probably a good opportunity for us. And I think once you see a little bit more stability in the region, Egypt's just natural. You know, our operations go all the way from Afghanistan, Iraq, you know, those type of areas, Syria, they're very unstable. And I think right now what's been happening with the government, they've put stability first, and that's good. And if investment follows, it naturally will. What we're going through now, I think, is a little temporary blip in the long-term scheme of 5,000 years of Egyptian history, right? And 70 years of Coca-Cola.
All right, Mr. Ashraf, how do you see it? I mean, much action has been happening on the pharmaceutical level here in Egypt, but I mean, people are not very happy with the progress that has been happening in this field. And this may not be very encouraging for international companies to be wanting to invest, or am I mistaken?
You're not mistaken, you touched the nerve exactly. The pharmaceutical industry is a very strategic industry, and it started in Egypt in early 30s. And the multinational, they have their own production sites since, I believe, 1961. They started, or maybe 60, so they have more than 55 investments in Egypt, and it is developed by the time and expanded as well. And I believe that we should move to the next step of the industry, which is the R&D. But still, we are facing some challenges, and it's a very strong challenges even for the local industry, maybe more than the multinational one, because of mainly 2 points. Let's focus on it. Number one is the availability of the hard currency for purchasing of the raw materials. So I don't know if you believe that since 2014 we did not transfer any money for purchasing raw materials. We are getting on a credit, and we have now billions of Egyptian pounds. We are not talking about transferring of profits. We are talking about transferring of money of raw materials and finished goods which we have imported into.
Is this part of what you have discussed today with the Egyptian officials when they were here, or?
We discussed this with the Assistant Minister of Health, but of course this subject touched more the Governor of the Central Bank. I spoke to him a month ago regarding the subject.
Not during this.
Not during this one. I wish that if he attended, but he was not there. But we spoke about this subject a month ago, and he said that medicines and food have a first priority, and try to deal with the local banks more than the international one. And we are doing this for the time being. But up to the moment, we did not touch a real improvement in this issue. Our main objective is to have patient access to medicine, and we are afraid that the suppliers will stop providing this raw materials.
This being a problem that you see, I mean, has this mission helped you in any way, or you just feel that you wasted your time and during
regarding
these
this point, we got a promise from the Assistant Minister of Health that he will talk to the Governor of the Central Bank.
The Assistant Minister, not the Minister.
The Minister, no, he did not attend. So this is the first challenge we have. The second one is the pricing system. You know, since the revolution, there is a devaluation of the Egyptian pound of around 62% in relation to the US dollar. And we are one of the very few industries which has a fixed retail price mandated. And we did not have any price increases, and this is affecting, of course, the economy of the industry. And the challenge is, we are afraid that by time you cannot produce.
I just don't understand. I mean, these are very, very significant issues.
Yes.
But these are significant issues to be discussed with the right people.
Yes.
I can't see that you met with the right people during this mission, or maybe this should not have been the core of what the mission is about, or maybe you're raising the wrong issues in the wrong venue, or they are the right issues in the wrong venue, or they are the wrong issues in the right venue. I don't know, because if the person is not, if the Minister of Finance is not there, the Central Bank Governor is not there, the Minister of Health is not there, so who are you discussing it with, other than me?
The Assistant Minister of Health, he was representing the ministry, and he said we will find solutions for this.
And did you believe him?
I believe him, but I believe also that it's a political decision more than related to the Ministry of Health or Ministry of
Is it
Investment.
political or economic?
It's political more than economic.
Political more than economic.
Yes, because all the prices has been increased. We are not asking to increase the prices to make more profits, but we are asking to save a bleeding industry, and we are afraid to reach a situation of the textile industry as well.
I guess you should take some tips on how to increase the prices without letting your customers feel that you increase the prices. Maybe you can get the advice here from Coca-Cola. Mr. Ossama Suleiman, I mean, do you have similar problems also when it comes to the grain and oils industry and imports and so on? Was this also part of what was here? Was it the problems or was it the prospects?
Well, I have to echo what Dr. Ashraf said on the US dollar situation as well. Egypt is the net importer of grains and oilseeds in general. I think Egypt will import around 8 million tons of corn every year from the US and South America mostly. We import around 2 million tons of oilseeds for crushing. That's the industry I represent.
You don't import wheat?
We import wheat as well.
Wheat as well?
Yeah, but wheat is...
I thought we get that from Russia now.
Well, wheat we import from the cheapest origin, the most economic origin, let's put it this way. And that poses the next, or the point that we were here to represent today. Apart from the obvious USD situation and the availability of the hard currency, the other situation is the regulation around the importation. Of course, the infamous ergot issue on the wheat. We have similar issues as well on the oil seeds and corn imports, where Egypt is standing out with its own regulatory frame of reference that is not in conformity with the rest of the world. We've had several encounters with the government on that front, and we actually have solid confidence at this stage that this is going to be resolved very soon.
Who did you talk to?
The Minister of Industry and Trade, the Minister of Supply.
He was here today.
He was there, yes. And we already had an encounter with him on the subject before, directly and indirectly.
Anything concrete that you heard from him other than a promise to sort things out?
Well, I think the first step that we've seen positive was getting the FAO, the
Food and Agriculture Organization,
for the Minister of Agriculture to make a research to try and prove if this ergot thing is really good or bad, because we want to be just in line with the rest of the world. It has been there.
Who's we?
Egypt.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're not in line with the rest of the world?
At this stage, not.
And what should be happening?
I think we should rehash ourselves, our parameters for imports with our neighboring countries. For Europe, for example, we are importing more or less the same seeds from the same origins. So we need to look at what Europe is doing and try and echo that in our system. And this has been the case actually for quite a number of years.
Mr. Jeffrey Donald, I could see that BCIU and the last word in this acronym is understanding. I could see that understanding was not the main issue that you've concluded along these meetings, but more or less the issues of the misunderstanding or the lack of understanding.
I would say that we heard a lot of good things, a lot of progress today, but certainly some areas where further progress is needed. Understanding, I mean, I think that largely the sophisticated companies that came with us operate around the world in many cases, understand the challenges that the government is facing and the constraints perhaps. But also, if you're looking to attract further investments, more important areas and decisions need to be made and further progress shown in improving the competitiveness. And that really was, for us, the fundamental reason for being here, finding ways to suggest additional areas for progress, and I think we did that.
And did you have a listening ear? I mean, some officials were here, as far as I understood from Dr. Ashraf. Some were not here. Some were meant to be here. Some were not meant to be here.
Yes.
How do you see it?
I think we've had a strong representation. We had 4 ministers of the government. We had His Excellency Tarek Kabil representing the Prime Minister. We had the head of the Suez Economic Zone, Dr. Darwish, with us today. I felt like we had strong representation from the government. Are there other officials that make some decisions that some of the conversation turned to today? Of course.
What is your reaction? Is this the first time that you hear about the Suez Canal economic zone? I mean, is this the first time to hear about it in detail? I mean, as presented by Dr. Dawish, or you're already familiar with such details?
Familiar to some extent already. We've attended presentations, for instance, of officials in Washington that have come through. We're visiting the Suez Canal tomorrow with some of our delegations, so we will have a chance to see firsthand and on site some of the developments already occurring. And but no, I think we came in to some extent familiar and excited to see the progress made and hear more about the opportunities.
My viewers would not have mercy on me if I did not ask you the question. I mean, do you think there is an opportunity, do you think there is a space for American companies to be investing in Egypt more than the ones that are already investing, like new ones to be coming here, or American companies are following the Obama administration policy of letting go of the Middle East altogether?
No, I think companies make decisions outside the political calculations of any administration in the United States. I think if they see market opportunity, they are prepared to make investments on a long-term basis, and I do think there are other entrants that will come into this market beyond those that are already here.
So you see market opportunity around here?
Yes, I think when you talk about a country that has such a strong education platform, when you talk about a sizable population like that of Egypt, when you see a country making investments in infrastructure to support an enabling environment, that will attract investment. Maybe not immediately. There are going to be a lot of factors that people look at, but I do think there's opportunity here for companies not here yet.
In the future.
Yes.
In the future. All right, that takes me to the big question, Mr. Ferguson. I mean, if I'm talking to Dr. Ashraf here about the problems of importing raw material, and you're telling me about Coca-Cola producing the concentrate for the entire region here, I mean, how come you have not given the advice to Dr. Ashraf and the rest of the Council for pharmaceuticals that they should be manufacturing the raw material in here?
No, but I feel for him from a little bit. You obviously have to have dollars so you can import and bring in some of the raw materials so you can manufacture. We're lucky because we export to 50 other countries, so we have a currency flow to keep that moving. You know, one of the things, I'll have to show him the free zone. In fact, it's been something that's worked. The QIZs have worked very, very well for Egypt, and I've tirelessly promoted for U.S. business to come here for 10 years. I'm executive vice president of the AmCham, and I think U.S. companies are missing a huge opportunity. But the free zone works really, really well for us also. And you talked about the Suez Canal. We wouldn't be in that free zone if it wouldn't be for the Suez Canal, because we can effortlessly ship all throughout the regions, whether it's through Ismailia or Alexandria, the port system here in the transportation hub for the company like Coca-Cola that has to get to 50 other countries. It works very, very well. One of these days, too, we want to use that Nile. Every place else in Asia, we use the river transport system and take the trucks off the road. It used to cost me 11 cents to ship a case from Saigon all the way down to the Mekong Delta. It's the most efficient system in the world is used the rivers, and I'd love to see that one day, and maybe we'll have to develop that. But the free zone works very well, and then it also brings in dollars because we do export, and it helps satisfy our needs. And you know, we have a local business here. We have 12,000 employees.
There is talk about R&D. I mean, and I'm happy always when I hear the word R&D, especially that if it is followed by will be, maybe, can be, rather than can't be, won't be, would never be. So, do you think that this is a country, I mean, we know we have problems with our education system, even though Mr. Dole said there is quite a large number of educated people, but we have a problem with our education system and our graduates that need to be qualified and so on. Do you see this place, there could be a land for R&D for the region, or no, not really? There are competitors that are doing really better, and R&D belongs there.
In Egypt? Oh, our lab here is produced, right now, one of the biggest hits in the whole Coca-Cola system is Schweppes with the fruit bits in it that we developed here in Egypt. Okay. Right now, one of the biggest hits is our Schweppes Gold which is it's very it's a malt product. It's fantastic, and it's one of the biggest hits in the Coca-Cola system, assembled in Egypt, developed by Egyptians. So no, I think it's as long as they get the education,
And
the
in
training,
other
and the structure.
domains, I mean, other domains that may be as sophisticated or more sophisticated, like pharmaceuticals, like other products. I mean, how do you see it? I mean, you've been here. We know that you have this zeal about Egypt and Egyptians even more than I do, and we're really very grateful to you for that. But how do you see it? What should we do in order to be able to attract such investments here?
Well, I think first of all, you bring back the brain power that already exists throughout the world. Muhammad Al-Arian, right? I mean, if he can help with the economy, he certainly could, right? My son was unfortunately in the hospital, Emory University Hospital in Atlanta.
Sorry to hear that.
But he got out, everything's good. Of the 45 heads of department, 23 of them were Egyptian.
Okay.
You know, I mean, the brain power exists all throughout the world for Egypt. And when you start to bring that back, a little bit of capital, great ideas, I think it'd be unbelievable, the mix and the innovation and the really cool stuff that'll come out of that. I mean, and quite frankly, we don't even export Coca-Cola also, we export Egyptians. So, I mean, that's one of our big key efforts is bring them into the Middle East, our businesses in Saudi, you know, the language skills that everybody has. It's a fascinating place. So it just needs a little bit of push and a little bit of creativity and a little bit of capital.
A little bit of creativity and a little bit of capital. Where is the creativity in the pharmaceutical industry to overcome the problems that we're having?
I have two answers now. First, regarding the R&D, because this R&D is pharmaceutical. In pharmaceutical, we are not selling product, we sell innovation. So innovation comes from R&D. And since you opened this subject, Egypt is behind too many countries in this area. We don't have a law to regulate the clinical trials yet in Egypt. And this subject has been finalized since 1964 in Helsinki. So most of the countries they have, and we don't have for the time being, and up to the moment we don't have a real phase 2 or phase 3 clinical trials in Egypt. So this is the core of the industry of the pharmaceutical, is the innovation, and we are completely out of it. And you should know that the investment, the yearly investment in the R&D in the pharmaceutical is around 83 billion US dollars. So you can imagine if
this is an industry second to arms manufacturing, or is it number one and arms manufacturing is now number 2?
I believe it's number 2 after the
okay.
But 83 is a very big volume of money. And you can imagine if we have 3 or 4% out of this, you will have an investment in R&D more bigger than the entire market of pharmaceutical in Egypt. The entire market in Egypt is around 3 billion US dollars. And the investment worldwide is 83, and we are completely out of it because of 2 reasons. One, we don't have a law to regulate the clinical trials. Number 2, we don't have a qualified centers, but we have a qualified people. I had the chance to attend a closed room discussion of governmental officials of some countries negotiating with the pharma, global pharma, regarding having an R&D and biological clusters in their countries. And I have seen some countries succeeded, like South Africa. They signed a memorandum of understanding, and around 14 governmental officials were attended. I have seen as well United Arab Emirates discussing the same, Saudi Arabia and Algeria. And I did not see Egypt yet discussing something like this, although it's
discussing what?
Discussing
clinical experiments, experimentation, or?
And investment in the biopharmaceutical in Egypt. The countries now is after having a cluster of R&D and investment in biopharmaceutical in the Middle East, and some countries trying to get it in their countries, and we are not trying yet. So I believe that this area is very important, very crucial, but what we are missing in the industry in Egypt, that we don't have a clear objectives. Your objective is just to produce a cheap product. Okay, we have a strategist for this if we would like to be this. You need to export which countries? Is it to Africa? Okay, GNP is enough for you. If you would like to export to states, you need an FDA accreditation for your production sites. To Europe, EMA. You would like to move to the R&D, you have to have your laws, you have to have advantage.
If you have the ideas so systematically and clearly presented, where is the problem?
The problem that the government not yet realized that this industry is very important and we should not kill it.
So why don't you take this to a bit of a higher level? Why don't you go to the president? I mean, why are you sticking to the assistant to the minister, and the minister himself is not interested in even meeting you?
I got a chance to meet different Minister of Health. We had around 9 since the revolution. And
they were lucky, huh?
Yeah.
They were many of them.
Unfortunately, whenever you speak to one and he gets convinced, he leaves the position. But time is running, and I'm afraid that we lose the chance to lose this kind of industry and to lose the future of the industry, which is an R&D with this competition with the other countries.
So here we have with another gentleman with a lot of zeal also, and wanting to see things moving. What's with the grain industry? I mean, we've used to be what you call it, the food basket of the world. Now we're importing most of our food from elsewhere in the world. And let me convey to all of you how the normal layman here in Egypt thinks. He thinks that we are bound to import everything. We are bound to be having other people's products, and nobody is helping in order to improve the agriculture kind of level here in Egypt so that we go back to where we belong, especially with water problems that are arising now. What do you say?
I'll speak on my bit on the grains and oilseeds particularly. We've been participating in a program to grow oilseeds in Egypt for the last 3 years in collaboration with NGOs, local NGOs in Egypt, working with the farmers to educate them about the oilseeds, growing soybeans particularly, which is a key source of protein for the Egyptian poultry, aqua or fish. Growing, and Egypt being the second largest tilapia fish grower in the world. That sector has grown over the last 5 years. Even throughout the revolution, we've seen double-digit growth in that sector. So that is one of the key, the key drivers for us to actually invest, because we, as Cargill, we're looking into expanding also our operation, doubling actually our operation in Egypt on the oilseed crush capacities, because we see the market need that. So back to your question on the, we've been working with the government, with NGOs, on trying to grow the oilseed. However, we were talking before the show, the amount of consumption of oilseeds, for example, is 2 million tons a year. Egypt is currently growing 50 to 60,000 tons only. But that number doubled over the last 3 years. So there is potential.
The number of production or the number of consumption?
The production. No, the production. No, consumption is growing as population grow on an average 4% per annum.
Maybe if we go on a diet, things would be a bit better. We'd consume less oil. Huh?
Well, oil is actually in the crush industry. If you're crushing soybeans, you're actually crushing it for the meal, for the protein content, and oil is a byproduct, because you get 80% meal and only 20% or 18% oil. So Egypt is by large a net importer, obviously, of those. We import oil, but we do have a large industry that is growing as well, and we foresee that this industry is probably going to double over the next 2 years, retaining a lot of added value in Egypt by importing the soybeans themselves. Rather
Any chance with all the projects that we hear about 1.5 million for dams and so on, that you bring in the technology and you say, here is the technology, here is the investment, here is what we can do in that section of the new project that the president himself is sponsoring, and in that case life would be simpler in some cases, or this is not on your agenda?
We're actually driving a dialogue in that direction, because we see obviously the currency situation have been blocking our operations, hindering it a little bit over the last couple of years. So one of the key solutions was to source the beans domestically. So that was one of the key factors why we were going to the local farmer and educating them about the qualities and the variations, because there are different variations for beans, for example. So what are the right qualities, how long you should leave it in the ground. We've actually had sessions We've been financing that operation. We already started talking with the government today on the reclamation on the 1 million dam to see how suitable soybeans would be for that project.
And if we import less oil, then we will spend less on cholesterol medicines and so on. And it's a good cycle. All right, let me just conclude by asking you in turn. I'll just go the other way around and ask you, how do you see the future of this mission here? What are the next steps? What is needed in order to make this visit a successful visit? Next time you meet in Cairo or in Washington or wherever it is, you'd say, in March 2016, we had a good beginning. How do you see it?
Well, I think it was, as Jeff has probably mentioned, there was a positive response from the ministers that were there. I think the mission going...
I'm talking about tomorrow morning. How do we make it work as of tomorrow morning?
I would expect a wake-up call from someone from the minister's office saying, okay, you raised that topic and this is what we're going to do about it.
So a wake-up call you're waiting for from the government. What are you looking for?
I'm looking for having more of the officials in this meeting, because we had some issues, as you mentioned, and the responsible was not there. And I hope that by end of such a meeting we can reach milestones of what we are going to do. And finally, and you can consider it number one, we need to know the objectives, the clear goals of the government regarding this industry to prepare ourselves.
All right, so a wake-up call and the objectives of the government. And
I think you hit on it. The government understands, Tariq Kabil, he understands industry. He understands our business.
even though it's coming from Pepsi-Cola.
Well, it's. I thought I taught him a lot when he was running the bottler. So, no, he was a great. It was like Tyson Holyfield, right? But that's fine. You get stronger doing that, right? You got to make your own luck in these environments, and I think everybody's outlined what they have to do for the future. And now we just got to get the government, and I think they want to listen, and we have to really lay it out for them what the positives and negatives are. The free zone for us works fabulously. I mean, it really does. The QIZs, I think they're working fabulously. And you know, we'll keep on taking that message. The MCHAM has a door knock. We always meet with you guys, and we'll meet with that. The U.S.-Egypt Business Council and the Egypt-U.S. Business Council. We're looking at, can we bring the Egyptian Federation of Industries more into that? Because we're all in this together.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
We want to build. You know, we got 12,000 employees here. I want to have 20,000 employees, because each one of those employees supports another 10 in the Egypt economy. So I mean, so we got to make our own luck as businessmen, and that's how you take the risk, and that's how you get the reward.
Mr. Donald, how do we take it forward?
Sure. I think the one idea that I got probably most excited about in the session today was that the conversation around the dialogue that can happen and should happen when there are draft measures being considered. And so in terms of follow-up for us, there are a number of things that we cataloged in the session. There will be further discussions from this. We will prepare some recommendations coming back from the discussion today. But I think the thing I was most interested in is, can there be more done to convene the private sector with government as measures are being drafted, as measures are being conceived, before they're finalized? Because once they're in place, it becomes harder to remove them or to change them. And so I think further dialogue and further discussion when things are still being formulated, I think, is one of the most important elements of our session today.
I thank you very much for this very interesting and constructive conversation we've had. And I'm sure, I mean, if I say the BCIU is all about understanding, I think we are reaching some kind of an understanding here. There are messages, there are wake-up calls, mainly to the government, mostly to all of us to take a look at what should be the next step. Allow me to thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ossama Suleiman. Thank you, Mr. Kurt Ferguson. Thank you, Dr. Ashraf Al-Khouli. Thank you, Mr. Jeffrey Donald. يعني في الآخر خالص الموضوع وقع تاني في حجر الحكومة. الشركات هتيجي مصر وهتستثمر في مصر لو اديناها القواعد اللي تساعدها انها تعمل ده. يمكن ضيوفنا قالوا من المشكلات اللي احنا كلنا عارفينها زي مشكلات الدولار والعملة الصعبة وغيرها، لكن مش هي دي بس المشكلات اللي احنا محتاجين نبص عليها. عندنا تشريعات ببساطة جدا لو غيرنا فيها شوية ممكن الأمور تاخد شكل أحسن، ممكن تبقى شكلها أفضل إنها تتحسن وتجذب استثمارات كبيرة. محتاجين إننا نبقى جادين، وهفكركم بالكلمة اللي كنت بقولها قبل كده، بقول الفرق بيننا وبين العالم الخارجي مش 100 سنة، الفرق بيننا وبينهم 5 دقايق، وال5 دقايق دول هم بتوع الإتقان والجودة والمراجعة. ويمكن يكون في 5 دقايق قبلهم إننا نفتح الباب للناس عشان خاطر تيجي وهي مطمئنة. بشكركم واشوفكم الأسبوع اللي جاي على خير، وتصبحوا على خير.